I must have been having issues getting on if I'm on this late. Oh my gosh. So this morning, I got the inkling when I got up out of my meditation to restart my computer, which is what I did. But even though I restarted my computer, it did not seem to want to I got on and then it wouldn't open up Zoom and then it wouldn't, something else wasn't responding. So I have had a time this morning getting on. So I know that what it just all is what it is. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you. And I hope you had a fantabulous weekend. I hope that it was filled with goodness and love and all of those good things. I had an opportunity to speak at a friend's funeral. I call her a friend, though she was, she's much older than I am. And I got a chance to spend some time with the marvelous, wonderful Ruth. And yeah, they were going wild over her curry chicken. And it was a good time. It was a good time, not just on that day, but I had a really good weekend. And I hope each and every one of you had an amazing weekend too. So many things that I could reflect on. And I did talk about a few things yesterday in my Sunday talk. But just, just one of those weekends, and it was split between the busyness, busy and doing, sometimes it's interesting. One of the things that um is interesting to me is that when I was growing up, I used to watch that Johnny Carson show, like many of us did. Um, for lack of something better on television or different choices. And, when we were looking for when the Jackson Five first started, or, even before the Flip Wilson show and all those things. Good morning, Denise. How are you? Before there were like shows for us to watch, we watched things like Johnny Carson. And Johnny Carson, like many late night talk show hosts, had skits that they did where they might take either the people who were coming on for an interview or a random person out of the audience, and they would do these skits. One of them that really stuck with me over the years was the idea of spinning plates. And spinning plates was where they would have these sticks that came up out of the ground. And I don't know if it was, 9 or 12 of them, but it would be all these sticks, and they would get these plates and they had to put the plate on top of the stick and then spin it. It was overhead, and then they would spin it. And the object was to get as many plates as possible up on that stick and spin it and keep it spinning as you went back and got other plates and other plates and other plates. And so, how many plates could you keep spinning at a single time? And sometimes that reminds me, it's like a metaphor for life, that we are spinning plates. We are trying to get these, the things to do what they do, to get them up there and to keep them up there and to somehow maintain the rotation as we go back, get more. And as you can likely imagine, if you hadn't seen the skit yourself, it does take some degree of skill and intuitive insight to keep as many plates as possible spinning. And then as they start to fall, there is this, okay, how do I, what then, right? What then? So I don't know how many plates you may have in your life that are spinning, but I certainly know that many of us have that type of frantic activity where we feel as if we are always moving and trying to keep as much going as humanly possible. So sometimes our weeks, our days, our weekends can feel like that. And there are, hopefully you get to the point where, and I said this to a friend of mine's just yesterday, last night, where you start to see, well, wait a minute, how important is this? Like on a scale, on my Richter scale, how important is this? Is it that I need to take care of myself? Do I need to step back? Am I stressed out about the plates that I have it spinning? At what point do we recognize that we can choose to downsize? Because what I know is that for so many people, there is the things that we create, whether it's the bills or the things that we buy, all of these things in an effort to think about how to make our lives more comfortable, we make them more complicated. And so then when we start to see, well, is this really necessary, right? Is it, and I'm no shade, but is it really necessary to have a $200 cable bill when you don't even have time to watch it, right? Or just one more pair of shoes or one more outfit when you've got stuff in your closet that you haven't worn in forever. I mean, there is so many things that we could think about if we just, if we just step back and think, am I creating more of an issue for myself, or is this something that will actually enhance my life? And so I think that part of the programming that we receive is to always be consumers, get something. And in that consumerism, we keep somebody else's plate spinning, but some of ours can come crashing. So just what came up for me, as I approach this on a Monday morning. I want to delve back into some of the questions that we have done, because I still have not closed the book on or finished this. It didn't start with you. This book, this idea comes up for me over and over again as I talk to people in the places that I go. I can ask questions about. I asked a woman a question. She was apologizing, it seemed like, for everything. Ruth was sitting at the table, and she was like, she's saying, I'm sorry to say this, or don't judge me on it. I was like thinking, where did you get that from? And to know that, it's not me that's sitting there that is standing in any way in judgment of her, but rather her feeling that and her kind of carrying this forward. From where did it start from? And so until we start to ask ourselves questions about, or what we think, how we think, until we really become introspective about this stuff, it will continue to play out, to wreak havoc, if that's what it's doing. Sometimes it can be we've downloaded or inherited some wonderful stuff that is altogether possible, but then we have it is altogether possible that we have gathered a whole bunch of negativity too. Grand rising to you, Dorelia. How are you today? Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you all. So I wanted to delve back into and at least get through the rest of these questions. It's been a couple of weeks since I've talked about it. I was finishing up, we are near the end of the book, probably in the last 10 pages. And this book, It Didn't Start With You, is a book on epigenetics to talk about how past generations can be influencing who we are today. And we have been told before that, the sins of the father are visited upon the son. Whether or not you recognize that or not, it is not just the sins, but this like a karmic echo that comes through time and that is here in our present moment. And so it is worth considering that some of the feelings and emotional stuff that you have may be things that you have inherited as opposed to just being who you are in your natural self. So in this section on success, we started to talk about how even your level of success can be impacted by the past, either not wanting to outdo your parents or having this idea that if it was good enough for them, it's good enough for me, having a discomfort with money or feeling like you owe a debt that may not have begun with you. In here, they talk about this in receiving inheritance or someone receiving inheritance that they don't think that they deserve, or that they got unjustly, or say, for instance, one of the examples in here was when a family is enriched unjustly by either slave labor or indentured workers, indentured servants, different people and that the karmic debt for that, it may be being paid in the present moment. One of the things that we think is that once our loved ones pass on, we have this idea that there is not still an energetic exchange that is going on. Sometimes we know that we've got people that travel with us, and in spite of the fact that they cannot be seen, they still have an echo in the present that'll tell you, don't do that, or don't, it'll try to get you to alter your actions for some interesting reasons. Sometimes it's because what they have learned. And so at a certain point, we can untie the tether that is saying, don't go out there, don't step out there, there's sometimes that we have this notion that all spirits that are past is somehow enlightened. And that is not necessarily the truth either. And so sometimes there is is there somebody else I can talk to back there? Or what I found is once my brother passed, I felt like he was interceding on my behalf. And I think that he still does intercede in my affairs. So, just to be open and aware that there are possibilities of what is going on in your energy field that may inhibit your ability to move forward. Are you feeling, and sometimes, having the conversation like I did with my mother and saying, Mom, these are not my issues. These are not my concerns, and I need to hand these back to you. And I could tell you that I felt something lifted off of me. It was powerful. And so I can see it in myself. I can see it in my face. I can see it in my body when that particular thing was lifted off. Now, that's not to say that I have been healed of all my family issues, but for the ones that I was getting, the pressure that I was getting on one level, whoo, that was such a it was such a lift. It was so good. It was so good. And this is, you can think it's woo woo. I'm talking woo woo, but the other thing is you can actually try it. And the wonderful thing about having an imagination, which all of us have, we don't all cultivate it. But the one wonderful thing about having an imagination is that you can have an imaginary conversation when you're at home alone, or when you're driving in your car, or any number of places. People are always so concerned. Somebody might see me. Somebody, oh, what, But nowadays it's so funny because all of us drive around in our cars. Either we're actually talking on the phone or we're pretending to talk on the phone. You have the ability to talk to yourself, or to talk to the spirits that are in the room with you, that travel with you, whether you see them or not. So when I get back to these questions, the questions are trying to shake loose what could be some of the possible things that are holding you back in your estimation of success. There is another question of what do you deem as success, right? What is it for you? I'm always interested in how people define success. For some people, it's a dollar amount. For some people, it is, their zip code, their house, their car, the trappings. For some people, it is a level of freedom. Believe it or not, there are people who embrace this idea of having control over their time and not having to answer to other people. Some so much so that they have chosen to be off the grid, to live off the grid, or some even to be homeless, right? Because in homelessness, there is a lot of things that a lot of stressors that you don't have to deal with, but it also presents other stressors. And so, we've got to consider, like, what's our comfort level? What's the medium point? What is it that what you can do to reach a level of equanimity, of happiness, of satisfaction? That becomes the endeavor. What is it that you need in order to feel whole? And then to know what it means to feel whole for you. I'm not talking about anybody else or what other people think, because here's also what I know, that a lot of times what people do is because of what other people will think about them, right? It is not so much like not so much that we need to have a certain not so much that women need a purse, but there's a type of purse that we think that will be more respectable or more acceptable. Not that we have hair, but it's how our hair looks or the type of hair we have. There are so many things that factor into this estimation of our own comfort levels. I will tell you that once you get comfortable with you, a lot of the dumb stuff falls away. And I don't, no shade, right? No shade, because what I know is that there is a desire that we have to be seen. There's a desire that we have to feel as if we are held in high esteem by others. And so we look at those things, and we look at it when we see other people, and we want to emulate that. Or, there are certain times that we try to figure out, okay, what do I need to do in order to walk into a space and feel okay, right? And for some people, they will externalize that feeling and think that it's the clothes, the sometimes the degree, sometimes the job, they'll think that it is all of these different things, when in actuality, maybe it's the self that we need to deal with, right? What part of me feels as if I'm not accepted even before I walk into the room? And so if you already have that feeling of not accepted or not enoughness, it doesn't matter what you put on your body, you will still carry that into the next space. So the work to do is on that idea of you not being enough. That, for me, I tell people all the time, that starts with doing your mirror work, right? Looking in the mirror, telling yourself you love you, and then figuring out all the stuff that comes up that blocks your ability to love yourself as you are. Taking off layers, yeah. So what is it that has you in judgment about yourself, right? What is it that has you not accepting yourself as you are? What is it, and where did it come from, right? Did it start with you, or did this start in a past generation? Is this something that had something to do with your parents? Is it something that has to do with and we went through all the different things, whether it's an aunt or an uncle, whether it's an older sibling or unborn child, or all of those things, to look in our system, to look in our family system and try to glean, where could this feeling be coming from, this feeling of not being seen, this feeling of not being heard. Quit thinking that it's about how much money you spend on yourself, and do the work. So I get that there are people that have things that did not start with them, right? I get that. But now, if you are watching this, if you're comprehending this, it's your work to do. It's yours to do. It's not about, oh, what so-and-so didn't do and what so-and-so didn't say. And, my dad did this and my dad did. Sure, we have all been there. Now, the ball is in your court now. It's time to stop being somebody else's victim and do your own work. Ew. And I'm not trying to make it seem like it's easy. It is not easy, but it is necessary. You got to stand up on your own two big feet and do the work. What does that mean? The moment you start asking the questions and looking for stuff, books will literally fall off the shelf. You can go back and watch some of the past episodes of us working through this book. And it may sometimes seem boring and tedious or whatever, but it works. It works if you work it. It works if you work it. So don't look away. I keep saying that. Don't look away. So now I don't exactly know where I left off on these questions, but I'm going to pick up right here at question number 12, where it says, was anyone cheated out of an inheritance? Sometimes we feel like we are cheated out of what is rightfully ours, right? And or it could be somebody else in your family line that has been cheated out of something that they perceive to be rightfully theirs. That can have an impact on you later on in life in a number of different ways. Did anyone inherit or acquire wealth unjustly? Well, we know that coming through a legacy of enslavement, that people were prospered in ways that were unjust based on the labor and the exploitation of a group of people. And so, yes, we know that these are issues that are within our own family systems. And until we kind of start to excavate that, we will still be at the effects of it. One of the things that is really interesting to me is I went to the dentist and I had to get a filling. And so one of the things that they do when you get a filling is, good morning, Mike. One of the things that they do when you get a filling is that they've got to clean out that space in order to then pack the hole, to fill the hole. And so there's, sometimes there's rot or decay around a certain area. And in order to put the filling in there, that needs to be cleaned out or cleared out. Our lives are a lot like that, right? We've got things that we have not addressed, have not looked at, that needs some clearing out to get rid of the stuff that doesn't fit in order to get the things that do fit in the place. So what does that mean for you? What does it mean for me? When you think about it, did anyone inherit or acquire wealth unjustly? That sometimes we need to step back and take a look at, right? It is like, wow, how could that be playing out right now in my life, right? How, either with this idea of, I need to make amends for it, or the feeling as we have been a victim of it. What is it that needs to be looked at? Question number 14. Did anyone in your family go bankrupt, lose the family wealth, or cause the family to experience financial difficulties? Remember, we have had instances where people have had alcoholic parents or gambling parents that it seems like the actions broke up a marriage, broke up a home. Sometimes it doesn't break up a home, but it's not hard to have a desire to unconsciously identify with a parent or a grandparent, aunt or uncle who may have done that and play out the same role over and over again. There is a friend of mine whose father was an alcoholic, and I mean, it was just, he was a true drunk. And as you see his youngest son, he has carried on that tradition of being, the family drunk. I mean, it's, you could see it. It's, and at a certain point, I just wonder if when you were walking through a life in that level of a stupor, if you ever stop to say, you know what, I don't want to live like this. Or do we believe that we are condemned to live that way? We don't have to identify with what we have, what doesn't serve us. At a certain point, we could say, oh, you know what? I need to sit down and have a conversation with him and give this right back to him, because I see the same thing that's playing out here today in my situation with what happened to my dad in his. But that's the work. Was anyone rejected for being a failure, a loser, a gambler, a cheater, or whatever, etc., is what he says. And how could that possibly be showing up or playing in your life? Did anyone lose a home or possessions or have difficulty recovering from that? Uh, do you have impoverished ancestors? Did you or your parents immigrate? Were your family members forced to flee or driven out of their homeland or stolen? Right. Do you or anyone else in your family hurt, cheat, or take advantage of someone? Did you hurt, cheat, or take advantage of someone? That can go on to, was there any murders, any suicides? Somebody talked to me this weekend about a suicide in their family, and I'm trying to recall who it was and why I didn't, and if I skirted over that conversation or if I was actually present, what precluded me from going deeper in that conversation. But all of those things matter. All of those things matter. So that brings me to chapter 14, believe it or not. And this is the core language of medicine. And so I want to, and so as you guys can see, I want to finish up this particular book so that I can move on to the next. Because when I talk about this idea of scattered energy, um, and I love this book. I'm going to keep referring to this book. As a matter of fact, I might just start this all over again because it is such a it's so informative, right? However, when I think about scattered energy, there is a necessity to bring closure to one item before moving on to the next. This is like when you don't, it's like leaving the refrigerator door wide open. And that means that you're losing power and that it cannot do the job that it was designed to do because it needs to be closed in order to work. And so there are so many times within our system that we don't recognize that a system that has a hole in it, or a system that is compromised, is losing power, it's losing energy. Can you imagine what happens if you had a cut or something on your body and you could not sustain yourself for long if you were leaking? If this body suit that we wear was leaking, whether it was leaking water or blood or whatever, if it was leaking, it couldn't do the job that it is designed to do. When your car, when the circuits are not going through, when the belts are not connected, when everything is not a closed system, it is losing energy. It is, and on the way to breaking down. You can't drive with a broken brake line, right? Or if some hose is out of place or out of whack, it requires that we bring closure. And closure is what helps everything to move. The moment you have breaks, you are losing power. So I need to bring closure to this particular book before I move on to the next one. So the core language of medicine is number 14. And Thich Nhat Hanh, this is a quote taken from A Lifetime of Peace. It says, if you look deeply into the palm of your hand, you will see your parents and all the generations of your ancestors. All of them are alive in this moment. Each is present in your body. You are a continuation of each of these people. That's good. That is good. Thich Nhat Hanh said that you are a continuation of all of these people. That's good. I love that. I need to read that, A Lifetime of Peace. What is the name of the book? It didn't start with you, Aurelia. I mean, Aurelia. I got a friend named Aurelia. Aurelia. It is. It didn't start with you by Mark Wolin. It didn't start with you by Mark Wolin. All right, and it's available on Amazon. As a matter of fact, when I get my website back up, I need to put a link to it so that I can make sure I get some credit for recommending this book so many times. So he says, in this book, I've presented a new way of listening that shines a light into the dimly lit hallways of the past. By discovering how to decode our core language map, we can decipher what belongs to us and what may have stemmed from the traumatic events in our family's history. With their origin revealed, old patterns can be released so that new pathways and new life possibilities can open. And that's what this is all about, so that we can untether from places, dark, dank places that don't serve us anymore, and move into other new places that do serve us. My hope is that you already feel lighter or have a greater sense of ease when you revisit the fears you wrote down earlier. I know I have. Perhaps you are experiencing a greater sense of belonging or compassion with family members you met along the way. Maybe they now stand with you in a new way, a supportive way that leaves you feeling held by something greater than yourself. Maybe you can feel their comfort and support around you. Take a moment and feel this support. He says, take a moment and feel this support. I would tell you, for me, I not only have I felt different from doing this work, but I've felt more at peace with the decisions and the non-decisions. I felt more at peace with understanding where some of my fears come from, and that the fears didn't begin with me. As I unpacked and dissect my mother's life, my grandmother's lives, because I got two grandmothers, right? As I unpacked their lives, my grandfather's lives, looking at the things that are still in play with aunts and uncles and family shame, all of that is, I still don't realize all the things that are impacting me now. Because one of the things that our parents did not do is after leaving out of, and parents and grandparents, great grandparents, after leaving out of in service, in the servitude and bondage, right? After moving out of the South, there was a lot of them that no longer talked about the things that they had seen, the trauma that had affected them. They didn't talk about it. They didn't share those ideas. And so we are left with this kind of like the whispers and the secrets that we heard, and thinking about like, wow, what is that and how does that affect how I show up in a relationship, or whether I am able to trust. How does that impact the present moment? What's the tentacles? And so, as I sit and I ponder those types of things, I know that I don't have all the answers, but I do know that from doing the work in this book and following along and challenging myself to answer the questions. What's your deepest fear, right? What's my deepest fear? And if I get a hold of my deepest fear and then really look at the core language of it, and then look at it and think that it may not be mine, it may not have started with me. Who might I, from out of my family lineage, who might this be? Who might these words belong to? What work do I need to do with them, even though I cannot see them? Even though I don't perceive them right now, what can I do right here where I am to unloosen some of this stuff? And so this idea of finding the first off, the deepest fear, once you recognize what your deepest fear is, there's a core descriptor, right? The core descriptor means that you find and describe, like whether you are talking about your father or your mother, let me describe them. Let me pick out key words in this. Let me describe my grandparents from what I remember, what I recall. Let me pick out key words in that. And as you do that work, then all of a sudden you start to see a little more clearly your own self, right? I find it really interesting. Then from that, you find your core sentence. What's your core sentence? Saturday at the funeral, it was really interesting. The woman who passed, her children said that she kept saying in her 80 years, right? She kept saying that she didn't think she had done enough. She was like, they were talking about, and they named off her accomplishments, the things that she had done, all of this stuff. They named off the accomplishments and talked about that. But still, she says that her mother in her 80s was still thinking that she hadn't done enough. That is a core sentence right there. And the question is where does that come from? And what would ever be enough? I've got a friend of mine who has another core sentence. I don't know exactly what her core sentence is, but she does not allow herself to have leisure time. There is always this feeling of, I got to be productive. I got to be productive. I got to be productive. No matter what, going through COVID, she is still talking about, I got to be productive. I got to be productive. She couldn't give herself time to rest or her body the ability to recuperate because she's got to be productive, right? When we start seeing the core sentence, or we get to that core sentence, we can begin to ask ourselves, who does this belong to? Right? And why is it ruling my life? If we look at, something else that her daughter said is that she started talking about, how when their minds go, or when they're getting in those final stages and they're babbling, she said that her mother was babbling about what she was going to wear to her own funeral. Like she went through and talked about what kind of shoes even she wanted to have on in this coffin. I mean, to think about that, to think about this idea of image and perception and clothing while you were in that state, that probably did not start with her. And that core language resonated so strongly that it was then communicated to her children and then her grandchildren, and then over and over until we start to say, wait a minute, right? Wait a minute. Does this really matter? Right? And then to say, because we got hungry ghosts, to say, look, grandma or ma or whoever this is not going to be what motivates and what rules my life. And that could be for some of us so many different things. I will tell you too, and I owe it to y'all to speak frankly and my truth. If you are still putting pussy on a pedestal, if you are still sitting up acting and worrying about money, if you are still in those modes of self-protection because you think somebody is going to take something from you, that you might lose something, you better get a grip. Think about that, right? What is it that I'm protecting? And does my protection of it keep me imprisoned along with it? So sometimes we are so concerned that somebody is trying to take advantage of us because that has happened in the past to somebody in your ancestral line. You've been told to lock that baby down. Don't let nobody in. Don't do. You know what? When you get to the pearly gates, God is not going to look at you and say, oh, you a virgin, or oh, you got low mileage on that stuff. Oh, so then you automatically get in. No, it's not that case. That is not the case. We are not we are not going to be judged or granted a pass because we played it so safe. That is not that. I mean, why would we have these resilient bodies, this resilient spirit, if we weren't meant to use it, to challenge it to the full extent of the possibilities that we can? So if you are sitting up and trying to be so goody two shoe about everything, thinking that that's going to get you, that's going to put you at the front of the line, baby, let me tell you, no, not live your life. Because it is through the living of your life, through the hurts, the pains, that we receive enlightenment, develop the spiritual musculature necessary to move forward, to see what matters and what doesn't, to pull the veil back, right, off of the thing and see that they no darn wizard back there, right? It just live your life. Live your life. So, I just, and going through this process, going through and doing this work has made me realize that, yes, I have a posse that travels with me. And yes, I know that the experiences of my life and their life culminated in this being that is Sandra, and I am so happy and thrilled for that. And so I'm going to put a hash mark right here so that I can pick up with this tomorrow. And I want to, just for a second, I met a guy at the funeral this weekend. I tell you, it was a as far as funerals go, not just because I was there and I spoke, but just kind of pondering some of the stuff that happened. I met some guy that was there who, when I talk to trees. So y'all know I talk to anybody. I don't have a I don't have a thing. So I walked up to this guy. It was interesting too. It's interesting too. This mother, as she got up there and she talked, she asked for people to pray for her 14-year-old. And I was thinking to myself, like, okay. Yeah, bless her, especially when a mom could get up in front of a crowd of people and make it seem like there's something wrong with the 14-year-old that we need to pray about her. Bless her in that whole situation. That's not what I was trying to tell y'all about. So I met this man, and I'm standing there. Now, when I first walked in, I said something to him about his shoes, because his shoes were just so special, right? They were so special. Said something about his shoes, and little exchange, and then go into the other room, and I'm socializing with people, and I run back into this guy. And now he's in a chatty mood. No drinks, no alcohol flowing, but now he's in a chatty mood. And so he started, like I see a lot of people do. It's a white guy. He started telling me jokes, kind of like riddles, whatever. Now, I didn't know this guy from anybody. All I knew is that apparently he must have been close to the family because he was there. And so as he started telling me these riddles, I'm just standing there, and it's funny because I don't always get people's sense of humor. I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh, because it's not necessarily like laughing funny to me. I don't know when I'm supposed to laugh and when I'm just supposed to be like, oh, okay, ha. I'm one of those type of people. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to him, and he's going through and he's starting on this like montage of riddles and jokes, and there's three types of people in the world. This is what he says. There's three types of people in the world: those that can count and those that cannot. And so I'm standing there, and I look, and I was like, and he goes on to the next thing. And I said, well, wait a minute, what's the third type of person? And he looks at me like, those that pay attention, kind of thing, I think is what he kind of said. But that kind of led him to the next joke. And he then recounted off this next joke. And the next joke was something like an infinite number of people go into whatever. He's a mathematician and teaches mathematics, I suppose, some type of mathematics on a college level. And so I should have gotten a clue from whatever, but these were the types of jokes that he was telling. And so he then rattled off to me this joke in rapid succession. An infinite number of mathematicians go into a bar and they order. And he starts in with this rattling off numbers, fractions, all of this stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, like, I look at him and I'm thinking to myself, am I supposed to laugh? I mean, that's what I was thinking. Am I supposed to laugh? And then he goes on to something else. And then he looks back at me and he asked me, he was like, so how many drinks did they get? And I said, 2. And this guy, you would have thought that I just discovered something. He was just so blown away. He was like, oh my God, like I have known maybe 2 other people that has gotten that in all the years I've been telling it. He says, I must have told that joke to a few thousand people. And he says, and you were the And he counted them. He says, you're the third person. And the other two were, like professor level. And he's like, how did you know that? And now I'm starting to think like, okay, is this a joke? Should I walk away? How did I know that? To me, it was just obvious. It was simple. It was intuitive. I don't know, but I was like, so now I'm trying to take a step back, right? Because now he's making it seem like it's so big. No, tell me, what do you do for a living? That's what do you do for a living? I'm standing there thinking like, dude. So so it was really kind of like one of those things. And as a matter of fact, he kept circling back and then trying to corner me to talk to me with different conversations again, as if to say, now he's finding me fascinating and wanted to pick my brain. And while I enjoyed the attention, there is this other thing that I sometimes wonder about, is about how people do flim flam moves on us. Not saying that he was doing a flim flam move, but how often are we as children and as adults made to feel as if we are, well, I could say, Denise, good morning, that it was his pickup line had he not had his wife standing there with him, and kind of co-signing, like, like, okay, now he's down the rabbit hole. Like, you have put him down the rabbit hole, and now he's going to start probably spewing out numbers at you, to see if you can get it. I don't know, but it was for me, as I tried to back up out of the conversation, because now that we are there and he has me in this estimation, I was thinking to myself, it's a good time to walk away, right? Walk away when you're on top and leave it there. But this man kept kind of coming back, like, as if to say, why are you just doing what you're doing when you probably got one of those goodwill hunting minds? And I was thinking to myself, dude, it was just two. It was just two. I don't care how many how many times you broke down those numbers and tried to like do this. It was kind of like watching a 3-card Molly game, and where the thing is, which one it is supposed to be, and then they're trying to, I'm gonna do real fast, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, so that I trick you, and you're not tricked. I'm like thinking, it's just two, dude, really? so but it had me thinking that we have been gaslighted so much and for so long that maybe we are walking around as Einsteins, that people have tried to make it seem like we need to be less. And if everybody could live at the extent of their possibilities without letting the school system define who you are, without allowing other people to dictate the parameters of your thought, if we could all just be in the space where, because part of me was like, I was sitting there thinking to myself, it was so simple to me, right? It was so simple to me. Maybe his presence intimidates other people. Maybe that as a mathematician, that that other people didn't have the audacity to say, is just two, dude, right? It's just two. I don't know. But for me, this is oh yeah, hey Sandra. I was wondering about that. I was like, Denise Henderson. Okay, hey. So yeah, it was just interesting to me that that experience. but it also took me back in school when people would classify us and try to tell us what our abilities and capabilities are. Whether you were riding on the short bus or no bus, whether you were in the gifted and talented classes or in the mediocre classes, there is this tendency to sort people and to tell them what their abilities are. Maybe the people who were in the talented and gifted class were there because they knew how to color in the lines. And since I was always, somebody said, oh, you're such a nonconformist. Yes, since I was a nonconformist, like, don't put me in the gifted and talented area because I'm gonna corrupt all of them too. Y'all beware, because this girl, I don't color inside the lines. I am a nonconformist. I've never met a rule that I was not willing to break. So I feel like I have to live at the edge of what's possible. So if you want to go with me to the edge, I'll see you here tomorrow. I'm just going to keep going for that forward edge. Oh my gosh, I love this journey. And I love y'all. So thank you so much for being here. Something to chew on, and we will pick back up tomorrow so we can get through we get the opportunity to finish up the rest of the book. Think about what you think about. Think about even the words that you use. What is your fears? What are, did it start with you? Could this be somebody else's? What motivates you? If somebody was to say something at your funeral, would they, what's your legacy? I want to heal that in mind. I don't, to have somebody, yeah, and then down the rabbit hole. Yeah. I want to, when I think about, good morning, Tracy. When I think about that and the drive that pushes you. Now, here's the thing that I say, live until you die, right? So yes, absolutely, at 80 something, still be talking about teaching classes or writing a book or getting married or, having your first orgasm. Or I said that for you, Tracy. I mean, I know you already had many multiple ones, but some people at 80, if you still seeking after that, go for it. Don't sit there and let somebody tell you what you can and cannot do. I said yesterday during the program when I ran into Dr. Brown and I was saying, oh, this lady lived a full life. And he says, the goal is to live to be 105. The goal is to live 105. I'm middle-aged now, right? We got to get busy because let's get busy. Let's get busy. Let's look at this and know that, yeah, the best is yet to come. Yes, he was thinking great sex till you die. Yeah, any sex until you die, right? But let it be great. I mean, that makes you want to have it, right? Ooh, connection, love, all of that stuff. Ooh. I remember hearing somebody say that the reason why people say, oh God, when they're ready to have an orgasm is because that is the time in which we are most connected. And to look for that connection, that kind of connection with another person is a beautiful and wonderful thing. Yeah, just live. Don't live in your fear. I'm talking to myself too. Don't live in your fear, live in your faith. And yeah, let's do the damn thing. All right, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Blessings to you. I love this. All right, I'll see you. And yeah, blessings. Have a beautiful, blessed Monday.